to be doing in order to survive. They're ectotherms, or cold-blooded animals. They rely on the outside environment to keep their bodies nice and warm, and laying around is a great way to do that for them for a couple different reasons. First off, look at their color. They've got this nice dark gray, almost charcoal coloration to them. Just like any of us, you're wearing a dark t-shirt out in the sun, you are warming up pretty quickly, and they're taking full advantage of that. But they also have the added bonus of down along their backs here, you'll notice these kind of square spikes. And these are what we call osteoderms. And osteoderm translates to bone skin, and that's exactly what those are. Little pieces of bone almost sewn into the skin. And not only does this act as a great set of armor for the alligators, as I was talking about earlier, it also acts as a solar panel. So as they're up here on land, or you'll even notice some in the water have their backs exposed. The sun beats down on those bones all day, they're going to warm up, and they're surrounded by blood vessels, so it takes that warmth and spreads it through the rest of the body. So they do spend the majority of their day up in the sun when they can, and then at night you'll see them head more into the water. And when alligators are up here on land, you might have heard that they are incredibly fast, running 20 to 30 miles an hour, and you have to zigzag to get away from them. Do you think I put myself down here with 30 alligators that could run 30 miles an hour? No, absolutely not. So there are some things that slow them down when they get up here on land. First off being their fairly large head that Handsome's already showing off for everybody. Hey, Handsome! So on a large alligator like Handsome, this head is going to weigh around 100 pounds. That is a lot to be lifting up off the ground while you're walking around. Also, for as large as these animals are, they have fairly small legs, and those legs are on the sides of their body. So when they are getting up and going, they're almost having to do a full body push-up the whole time they're walking around. And last, but certainly not least, is the tail of an alligator. On larger alligators, these tails can weigh upwards of 200 pounds. They do not lift those up off the ground while they're walking, as you can see evident with Flounder here. It's dragging behind him. So 200 pounds strapped to the back of you, dragging behind you, not exactly something that's going to speed you up. That is the equivalent of your refrigerator tied to the back of you. It's going to slow you down a little bit. Now, when I say these alligators aren't as fast as you might have heard, by no means do I mean they are not fast at all. They absolutely can get up to some decent speeds up here on land, so we do highly recommend if you're walking around, you happen to see one of these smiling faces looking back at you, do yourself a favor. Turn around, walk the other way. Don't start closing that gap, because then you're going to have what we consider in our books a bad day. Those things that can slow them down on land make them all the faster once they hit this water. Those large heads are covered with sensory organs, so they're very aware of what's going on around them, even when they're almost completely underwater. Those little legs, they come to the side, make them more streamlined, even jut out as a rudder for a quick turn. And that big heavy tail, well, it's heavy because it's filled with muscle. So it's almost like a motor on the backs of these alligators, allowing them to get up to some pretty good speeds in the water. And it's also what they're going to be using to blast out of the water to grab their prey. Let's talk a little bit more about those sensory organs. I'm sure you noticed with Handsome there and with Casey, as I've been walking around the lagoon, they're very aware of the guy who has snacks in his pocket, even though they're almost completely underwater. And that's because their eyes, ears, and nose are all elevated on the top of their heads. But they also have the added bonus of another organ that we don't have, known as ISOs. So if you look closely on what you might consider the lips of an alligator, you'll notice these little black dots. Casey, can you show these off, everybody? So on his top jaw here, all along his bottom jaw as well, he has those little black dots, and those are the ISOs, and they're used to pick up on water disturbances and vibrations. So if something will land in the water next to an alligator, they know where it is, which is very beneficial because these are ambush predators. They're going to be sitting along the water's edge, waiting for something to get a little too close. And maybe that animal gets a drink of water, or they just touch the water as they're walking by. That's going to send out those vibrations, and that lets the alligator know it's dinner time. And that's when they're going to blast out and grab their prey with their most known characteristics, and that's that big, beautiful smile. Casey, it really seems like you're the only alligator that wants anything to do with me today. Show that smile off, everybody. So look at that big smile in his mouth there. Casey has around 70 to 80 conically shaped teeth that he's using for puncturing and holding on to prey. He's going to be replacing those teeth all throughout his lifetime. Alligators will go through upwards of 1,000 teeth in their entire lifetime. So don't worry if you notice an alligator or even a crocodile here missing a tooth. Good chances are that new one's already coming in. They kind of sit like an ice cream cone. There's a strong one underneath pushing that old weak one out. But that smile is also a great tool for us. This can help us answer another question we get asked pretty frequently here at the zoo. How do I tell the difference between an alligator and a crocodile? Well, alligators like the ones you see in front of you have more of a U-shaped, kind of rounded smile, where crocodiles will tend to have a more V-shaped, pointed smile. So we'll walk around the zoo today, try it out for yourself. Don't look at the sign just yet. Look at the shape of the animal's head, and you'll have a pretty good idea of what you're looking at. There is, however, another way I can narrow this down for you just a little bit more. There's only 2 species of alligators. We have our American alligators, like the ones you see in front of you. found throughout the southeastern parts of the United States and then down into Texas. And then across the world in China is our other species, the Chinese alligator. Big difference between the two, besides where you find them, is how big they get. As I said, American male alligators can average around 11 to 12 feet full grown. Chinese male alligators come in about half that size, 5 to 6 feet full grown. We do have them here at the zoo if you want to check them out for yourselves. They're just in our Land of Crocodiles area back in the Asia section. You'll see they look a lot like their American counterparts, just a whole lot smaller. There is, however, another big key difference. You can't tell this by looking at them. It's how well they're doing in the wild. American alligators are doing amazing. There's about 1.3 million just here in the state of Florida alone, which is a pretty big success story because these animals were once listed as an endangered species back in the late 50s and early 60s. Their Chinese cousins, however, aren't doing nearly as well. There's only about 100 to 200 individuals left out in the wild, but organizations like ourselves are doing what we can to get those population numbers higher. And that's something that's very important to us here at the zoo. For over 125 years, we've been focused on the highest standards of animal care, education, and the bigger picture of wildlife conservation. And you can help too. Small changes make a big difference. So please feel free to talk to us or check our website to find out how.